we're joined now by Hugo Brady, a research fellow at the Centre for European Reform. Hugo, thanks for joining us today. It sounds like a very broad and quite fundamental premise for this meeting, the future of the euro. What really can we expect to come out of this session?
Well, they had the summer break to do some hard thinking about how to save the single currency over the next 3 years. Essentially, they have a very narrow window, and they know it, to put the euro on a sustainable footing. So Herman Van Rompuy, the President of the European Council, was tasked with going away and figuring out some ideas for how they could make the Stability and Growth Pact, the fiscal underpinning of the euro, work. And,
yeah, let's talk a little bit about this guy, because actually he's done very well in Belgium. I mean, the fact that he now seems to be taking a larger role in this debate, does that fill you with optimism?
Well,
is that a little strong?
Belgium is a country that works better in practice than in theory. So perhaps Van Rompuy's task is to make the euro work better in practice than its rules might suggest, and put it on a more sustainable footing. He has actually, he's an operator. He's proved that he can do a lot with a little power, because technically he has no executive power under the EU's treaties. Yet somehow he's managed to overshadow the European Commission President, Barroso, in this crisis. So I would think that's going to set to continue, and I keep my eye on Mr. Van Rompuy.
Now, you say that the window is quite small. I mean, there's a little bit more breathing room with Greece at the moment, but there is still a lot of concern about Greece and also indeed about Ireland.
Yes, unfortunately, we're back in the territory where we're worrying about the risk of contagion throughout the eurozone. So that's something that we're going to have to watch for the next couple of months. We were hoping to have this conversation that we're going to have in September on the future of the euro and banking supervision in a much more comfortable environment than the one that is clearly arising out of after the holiday period, because we thought we'd be over the crisis. We thought we'd be in more comfortable territory to talk about some serious long-term rules. We could be back in firefighting in a matter of days, so it's a difficult time to be talking about these issues. And
when you say that we could be back in firefighting, you're talking specifically about Greece or Ireland as well?
Well, if you see, the bond spreads on Ireland's lending have sharpened, have widened dramatically over the last couple of weeks, over the last 2 weeks, and that's actually quite worrying, because we thought Ireland was a poster child once the Celtic Tiger, but also sort of the best of the worst, the best of the pigs, if you like, leading the way out of the crisis. Now a shadow has been cast over that by international commentary on Ireland's austerity strategy. So we have to see. Perhaps it's panicky. And of course everyone's also having one eye on America and whether or not there will be a double-dip recession. It could just be post-holiday nerves. So unfortunately we don't know, and that's why I think the discussions over the next couple of weeks might be a little less conclusive than we would have liked.
Indeed. Now nobody is within the 3% budget deficit, despite the austerity measures that have already been implemented. Presumably there's no point in trying to push on that at the moment, is there?
No, there's absolutely no point. I mean, you don't have to be a Keynesian economist to know that a completely literal reading of the Stability and Growth Pact rules now is not only politically unfeasible, it could be economically disastrous. So nobody's pushing for that for at least a year or so.
But would there be a new treaty? Is there any point in going down that route either? Presumably that would be very difficult as well.
Also politically untenable, so it's not something that is really any point discussing, unless we get tipped into it by some sort of constitutional court case in Germany or something, where the EU's bailouts are being challenged by a group of 4 German academic economists. It could happen there'd be a legal earthquake underneath all this very brittle lattice work we've built under the euro, just while we try and sort out the foundations. And that is something that does worry me, but again, it's not something that we can foresee in the immediate future.
Let's talk a little bit about Germany, because we've got all this very strong export-driven economy. We're looking at probably some very good data coming out of Germany this week. That's giving the euro a little bit of a boost today. But overall, there's a lot of other issues in Germany. One of them is that they don't want pension reform brought in and given as part of the budget deficit. How do you see Germany playing in all of this?
There's a problem with Germany, is that Germany as a model for the Eurozone is not really feasible, because if every country acted like Germany, we wouldn't have, it's not a sustainable way to manage the single currency area. If somebody else buys, somebody else has to spend, and the problem with the European economy is that it's imbalanced in this direction, where some people have had a lot of nights out and other people haven't gone out at all. So we kind of need to bring it back to something more like this, which is what you have to have in a situation, in a single currency area where you don't have a fiscal transfer system.
Overall, the big question, I guess, is Can they do it? Do you see that? Do you see the euro remaining in the same, the eurozone remaining in the same way that it is?
If you like, the eurozone is too big to fail, and if things, just can't be let happen, they have a funny way people have a funny way of basically, putting their finger in the dike and doing absolutely everything necessary. You should not underestimate the political will in the EU to, above all else, not let the euro fail. It's something perhaps we don't feel as strongly here in Britain. So.
OK, Hugo Brady, thank you very much indeed for your insights. Thanks for coming in today.